good Monday morning here, good Monday afternoon if you're at the Mortgage Innovators Conference. This is a special edition of Connect, the California MBA's weekly podcast featuring one-on-one interviews with movers and shakers in the mortgage industry. Today we've got a special edition of Connect. We're actually going to be here with two of who I think are great innovators and thinkers in the tech and marketing space in our industry. We've got Joe Dahleen with First Close and John Seroka with Seroka Brand Development. They actually serve as the co-chairs of the California MBA's Mortgage Technology and Marketing Committee. And so I've really relied on these guys to help me kind of navigate the waters as we figure out what webinars to do. And so if you've enjoyed a webinar from the MTAM committee over the last year or so, these are the two guys you want to thank for giving us great ideas and sort of shepherding that group. Awesome. So before we get into the conversation with Joe and John here, I want to thank our sponsors over at Incelerate. Incelerate is the leading mortgage lead management, CRM, and engagement platform that helps lenders close more loans by increasing efficiency gains across sales, marketing, operations, and management. And they've just announced today, actually, the first of its kind mobile app. This groundbreaking mobile app features full lead management, lead distribution, click-to-call, inbound call routing, first call automation, and two-way compliant text messaging, and provides access to critical loan information without having to use a laptop or log into their LOS system. It also empowers loan officers by intelligently distributing leads, managing pipelines, prioritizing their day, automating best practices, and personalizing the borrower's journey, all from their mobile app. So for more information or to catch a demo, you can visit Incelerate.com. You can actually visit their booth if you're at the Mortgage Innovators Conference and connect right away there with Josh Friend or one of his team members, or you can call the number listed in the description below. So let's get right into the conversation here. We've got John Seroka, he's principal at Seroka Brand Development, and Joe Dahleen. Joe is Senior Vice President of Strategy and Sales at First Close. Welcome, guys.
Thank you very much.
All right, well, hey, Joe, let's start here. It's top of the news this week. It was actually last week that the news broke, and it's still top of mind, I'm sure, for every lender in the country right now, and that's the FHFA's proposed, or they're implementing the 50 basis point increase on refis, and it's sort of in some ways caught the industry by surprise, and I think there's a lot of angst and anxiety out there. What's your take on that?
I think the biggest thing that's happened in the originator side is that they were a little bit unprepared. Locks are very much extended right now. They're going to have quite a few upset customers, or they're not going to guarantee these extended locks. The pipeline's very full. Files are not moving as fast. We're seeing a very high number of PIWs and ACEs from Freddie Mac, which are appraisal waivers, but that's not moving the process any faster. The process is kind of stagnated there in the middle a little bit before it can actually get funded. Locks are always kind of coming up to expiring. Most investors today are making sure they take an extended lock anyways. And now if you can't close with this lock situation with this extra 50 bips, it could cost you. And some will try to put it back to the consumer. Some lenders will just eat it. They'll just have to eat it. And that's just what it will be. They won't make as much money or most profit on those type of loans. But here's the thing. I mean, Tammy Butler from Mortgage Hive said it best. She's been in this business for 25, 30 years like me. And these are things that that are unavoidable. We have no control on our side of this industry. Some of my friends think it's a huge, giant, cop out and a rob of this piece. And considering how much money they made at both the GSEs last year. But hey, this is a chance for private label securitization to come back in and dominate a little bit in the marketplace. So there are some positives for a lot of people, and there's some that are just taking the shorts. I think consumer education now is going to be very important. They probably heard something like this, and this may be an originator's chance to say, oh well, the FHA stepped in, we got to relock you, and so they'll try to relock their whole pipeline. Thankfully for the consumer's case is that this has been really great, I think, because it's really kind of they're back to what the rates were in July, if you think about it. It's really only up 1/8 in rate, really not going to affect too much of the payments. Now, if you're, in the private securitization market with a large jumbo, you don't really care anyways. So, but it is kind of interesting how to raise some cash, right? Just pop on 50 basis points. I mean, what mortgage banker wouldn't like to do that nowadays?
Yeah, no kidding. John, what's your take on?
Yeah, well, you know what? They're calling it an adverse market refinance fee. And I think that right now homeowners need to be helped, not nailed. My opinion is that this fee could have been implemented at a later date, assuming it was really necessary. I mean, I think that there are a lot of struggling homeowners out there that are significantly helped by the ability to refinance and even take some cash out and pay off some high interest debt in other and that they're carrying in other areas. And
True.
also, provide some extra cash at a rate so incredibly low to help them navigate this environment we're in and whatever situation that they're finding themselves in. So these homeowners are not refinancing because they're planning to walk away from their homes. They're refinancing to help themselves keep their homes and keep their equity. And from where I sit, that reduces risk. So, and if in fact that it was found that there was an adverse effect that needed to be dealt with, this is just really bad timing. I mean, couldn't it be implemented later? Does it have to be 50 basis points? So, the cost is going to be borne by the borrowers.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, with all the pressure coming from industry groups and even consumer groups are all over this. If this actually stands or if this gets adjusted in some way, shape, or form. So let's go beyond the headlines here. Joe, why don't you talk about what's the hottest? We're at the Mortgage Innovators Conference right now. What's in your mind the hottest tech trend that you're seeing out there?
Well, I'd love to see this Accelerate app. That'd be cool. I haven't seen that yet, and I didn't know that was coming. So that would be very cool to see. I think the biggest thing is still a struggle for the originator, especially if they're more or less, Encompass customers. They're having a challenge trying to get this LE done. I think the CFPB is already ingrained into consumers the ability to have, the ability to shop a loan, that they need this LE, and so consumers want it, and originators are having a tough time fulfilling it and get it done for them right away. Typically, some cases I've seen 2 to 3 days for a consumer to get an LE. So anything that can speed up that piece, which is really interesting. I see that there is something that is available in the new LO Connect for the Encompass piece, which was fee-wise from Mortgage CTO, the guy who actually was one of the founders of OB way back in the day and Loan Sifter. He has a thing called FeeWise, and it can actually do your whole fees for you inside of LO Connect. Nobody's really done that yet. So that's pretty interesting. And I think that because of where LO Connect and Consumer Connect is, it's really going to give, I think, the POSs a little bit more of time to shine a little bit, because they've already connected via the API, so they're a little bit further ahead of it. So I think the POSs have a little bit of chance to run here for at least another year before it's going to get really tough, I think. But that's all I've really seen. I haven't seen a lot of just pure innovation coming out of it. I mean, there's a lot of innovation on the back end that we're not participating in anymore because, we're so damn busy with all of our volumes. I mean, this is the ideal time to go day one certainty and e-notes if you can do it, but most are just too busy to even focus on those type of things right now.
Interesting. John, what are you hearing from your clients and just folks you chat with in the industry?
Right. Yeah, I think that really the hottest mortgage tech trend right now, look, it's really simple. I think it's simply the trend towards streamlining the entire mortgage manufacturing process. And there are a lot of companies with great technology presenting right here at this conference that all play a role in that. So to isolate something, I don't know if that makes so much sense in my mind anyway, is to just look at the whole movement. Yep. And it starts way at the front end, helping consumers actually prepare for home ownership, and prepare by managing their balance sheets, a la FinLocker. So shout out to FinLocker. And according to this study that I read not long ago by McKinsey, creating the experience all the way through the process is just as, if not more important than the interest rate itself.
Very true.
Obviously, that's different when you're in a refinance, when you're dealing with a refinance, but you understand my point.
Yes.
Yeah,
the consumer experience is definitely driving a lot of the innovation that we've seen. And some of the guests we've had on this year too, with what they've been doing up front to capture those leads, and how they've really developed some great creative. I mean, some of those we had on our webinars this year were just amazing. I mean, really smart people doing some very smart things. And so that's exciting on that part. But I couldn't agree more with John. I mean, day one certainty's been out long enough, folks. Let's get on it. I mean, most of these standard refinances that I've seen are really educated borrowers who basically require a W-2 and a paycheck stub and an appraisal waiver. There's not that much more to do, folks. Get the title, get the binder, let's close this thing, right? So why are we putting it through this whole process? We think it's some 25-year-old self-employed guy or something.
Yeah.
I echo what Joe is saying, and Joe, I love your energy as always.
Yeah. So Joe, take us. I mean, maybe this, kind of fits in with what we were just talking about. Do you think it's a matter of, industry getting more tech or new tech, or is it just a matter of we need to do a better job utilizing the tech that's out there?
Well, I think that's true. I think, if you look at a lot of the people that just happened in Encompass, right? They closed off the web center and now they had to get back to LO Connect or Consumer Connect. They're forced them that way now. And there's probably a lot of people scrambling and probably some consultants picking up some good money to try to help those people out. But it's not that difficult. I mean, you could get into that LO Connect and really build your own app very quickly. But it still is kind of cumbersome to really have the consumer drive everything all the way through to a full-on AUS approval. That's the ultimate goal for the consumer, to come in and kind of drive the process enough where they can control it and they could go as far as they want. They could see the rates and closing costs. They can go into and get an AUS approval. They can streamline their process by collecting their assets, and maybe hopefully they're part of the work numbers, so it's really quick and easy, right? Maybe they do need to do some data aggregation piece, but if the consumer could control it, they should probably get the benefit of it, right? And maybe get a little bit of a credit back for doing that work up front. But that's it. Once it's over with that, I mean, that's really all it needs to be done. And so I think you're right. The consistent consumer experience in a branded portal will be a thing of the future. A disposable transactional portal that is done during the transaction, but after it's done, it's gone. Right?
Yeah. John, what's your take? Do we need more tech, or just better utilization of existing tech?
Right. Well, my answer to that question is maybe. I think that question really varies by lender. So it's a tough question because the beauty of what you have is in the eye of the beholder, and you don't know what you don't know. And I think that's really the reason for a conference like this. Being here really allows lenders to evaluate their stack that they're currently working with against the great tech demos that they're seeing here, so that they can make their own decisions as to what they need to meet their end goals, and what's going to smooth out and accelerate the process, and of course, above all, continue to drive down costs.
Yep.
Right. So John, let's switch gears a little bit here. I'm curious, what's your take, from talking to your clients again and folks in the industry, how have you seen the pandemic sort of change strategy, both marketing and tech, for lenders out there?
Wow. Great question. The pandemic has clearly changed how society interacts on all fronts. I mean, look, and lenders weren't left out of that. Lenders have found themselves, how would I say this? Lenders have found themselves filling various communication gaps to help consumers understand how to work with them to complete the mortgage process, explaining what forbearance is really all about and how it does or doesn't affect your credit, dispelling a lot of myths that were out there. So we were all, suddenly swung into this set of circumstances that nobody was really prepared for. But we all figured out how to adapt very quickly. And, I think back to something that Kevin Pereno said. I see his videos all the time online. He records these fantastic monologues in the middle of the night.
That's
really great information, right? You guys know.
And, he was one of our last guests. I mean, he was amazing.
Yeah, I know. He's fantastic, right? So anyway, he was right when a while back he said that the pandemic was really an accelerant. It kickstarted innovation that was going to happen anyway over the next several years. But, back to marketing specifically, some lenders some lenders have decided to actually pull back on their marketing efforts. And I think that it's not a function of because, I think it's really a function of just like time and being able to manage their marketing efforts or, capacity. They're so incredibly busy. They don't want to market. They aren't looking for new business. A lot of the smaller ones, they can't absorb whatever the situation might be. But others are working really hard. I've been speaking to a lot of lenders that are working really hard to prepare for the future where they expect rates will go up, and they've already started in that direction last week. So the last thing that you want to do is have less of a presence in the marketplace, because that's going to hurt your ability to recruit and maintain relationships with referral partners. Because if you think about it, part of marketing for a mortgage company, part of staying out there is recruiting great people to work with. So you need to be visible. You need to be visible. You can't just disappear. And the fact is that as a result of the pandemic, there's a whole new level of significance that's been put on leveraging digital marketing and social media, really taking your tactics and strategies to the next level.
Yeah.
You understand this, Joe. It's about creating as close to a one-on-one experience as possible, meaning something really personalized. So
Yeah.
I
think just to add on to what he was saying is that John's point is so accurate, because a lot of times some of these others have realized that the connection between the marketing spend to really the analytics and the KPIs that you're trying to achieve on your production side are so tight now that the way that you have to measure your marketing, if you're not doing that good piece, you're not gonna really be very successful with the marketing piece. So don't go overspend until your process is kind of baked to the back end so you can handle it, right? You don't want to have a failed customer experience and somebody who didn't call back, or the lead got lost and nobody followed up. What's that telling your client, right? So having those integrations are really tight. So guys like John, I know, are super busy putting those things together.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and Joe, that is so true. Everything you're saying is so true, and that's some of the feedback that we get. So some of the things that you should be doing right now, if you aren't already, by the way, I just want to give you all some tips. This may seem basic, but look, you know what? We're in a new environment right now. Update your website and look at it through the lens of the world that we now live in, with new and fresh content that helps people understand how to navigate the mortgage process during the pandemic, and answers a lot of their questions, because consumers have a lot of questions, and we've been doing a lot of things to help answer those questions through video and developing other content and whatnot that lenders can then go ahead and push out there. One thing that's really cool to note is that whenever you update your website with fresh content like new products, videos, blog posts, it attracts Google to crawl it. And it's one of the most, and a lot of people don't know this, but it's really one of the most immediate ways to boost your ranking. Google loves site updates. Add plenty of videos, blog posts on many topics of importance, and talk about, not just helpful information about the industry, that's definite, also what you offer and your culture and your people too.
Yeah, John, that's a great point. That's a great point, because this is the time for the originator to shine. You are a professional. You are licensed. You've been doing this business. You know this business cold. Giving financial education has never been so important in today's environment. And John, right. When you're updating your website, what are some important tips you should know about mobile too as well? You're on your website. You have any tips on that?
Yeah. That's the thing. It's like updating your website, making sure that your mobile experience is there. My gosh, if your mobile experience isn't right, you're way behind at this point. You're way behind. It's going to be very discouraging to a lot of people. The thing is that people have certain expectations these days in terms of how websites should operate on their mobile devices as well as their laptop. And most people are on mobile devices now, so you better have that squared away.
Well, and everyone, if you go to a website as a consumer, or even from our perspective, just going to any other business or any other industry, you go to shop for shoes or something, and the website takes 30 seconds to load up, and it doesn't fit right on your tablet or your mobile, you're gone. You're not going to stay there. So from the consumer's perspective, you've got to be have your website up to date. You've got to have fresh content in there. I always think that you go to a lender's website, or any industry really, and you go to if they have a blog there, it's almost like you've taken the step forward to have a blog. But if you go to that blog and the most recent post is from 2018,
yeah,
that tells you a lot.
Pay for some content.
Yeah. I launched this 5-tip series not too long ago, just this last week, and I started putting tips out there to help mortgage lenders recruit LOs. That was, I think, tip number 2 that I shared about making sure you have the right mobile experience on your website, that it's up to date, that you aren't working with an old template that hasn't been updated in a while, that you have the right messaging on there, all of that. I actually called it a grenade. If you don't have a good website experience, that's a grenade. People don't want to deal with that, not in 2020.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. Another thing that it's really important I want to bring up is adjusting your content. Yeah, I mean, look, it makes me cringe to say content is king. I mean, duh. But now it's not just about content. It's also about context. And that's my point with your content. It's about context now. So right now, while we're still dealing with this pandemic, many companies are adjusting their messaging, providing helpful information, and leading by example, while still providing their audiences with what they need to succeed. And as things normalize, further adjustments will be made to messaging that will be reflective of the new reality we'll be living in, including the mortgage application through the closing process. So opportunities to create good, timely content, compelling content are everywhere right now. The more content you produce that's helpful and answers questions, the more people are going to favor you. I want to bring up something about this increasing emphasis, going back to context, emphasis on nuance and content, which means the context and targeting are going to be super important as we move forward, because there was this algorithm update in Google called BERT, B-E-R-T. It was in late 2019. And Google is basically developing a deeper, more sophisticated understanding of content based upon how people interact with it. So marketers have to think carefully about their, how that content that they're developing meets needs and is tailored appropriately. And also voice search plays a big role in that also.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So you have to position your content to answer questions in a way that normal people speak.
Yeah, that's right. It's true. It's very true. We have a company up here in Seattle called Moz, M-O-Z, and there's like the SEO pros, and it's just great stuff coming. It's almost too much for me looking at it myself. But as we think about the future, since you brought up that point, I think one of the other points I just want to lay on top of what you said, John, it's not too late. You can change it now. I mean, think about I think the next thing we wanted to talk about was really, what do we see the future look like for the consumer? Like, what was the question we had about? We were thinking about stimulating. Was number 7, Dustin?
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second. Actually, Joe, I want to switch gears if I can for 1 second, though. We'll get to that here in a second. I'm curious to know. This is, I think, an interesting question in this context with the Innovators Conference. We've got a bunch of lenders here and a bunch of vendors here, and you guys are both sort of on the vendor partner side. I'm curious to know, from your perspective. Well, let's start with you, Joe. What does it take to be, I always hear, and I've heard this here in the last 5 years, more vendors calling themselves partners and not just vendors. It's almost become a slur to say vendor. So how do you become a partner, not just a vendor?
Yeah, I think it is a challenge every day for the vendor to kind of get to that point. But I think us as vendors, we approach this with working with lenders, and I've been a lender for 25 years, so it's easy for me to talk about this topic. But what we really try to do as vendors is really try to help embed ourselves into their process so we can fully understand what all of their needs are, because in many cases, our solution may not be right for some little part of what they're doing, but we may have a great suggestion how they can leverage a part that comes in from a different partner or a different vendor. And so understanding the whole scope of what they go through, it's almost like if they could share that with you and you could actually get inside their process and say, oh, this is when you kick off our product here, here, and here, and this is how it saves you all this time. Now, the reason you want to do this up front, let the consumer do it, is that so your loan officer processor doesn't need to do it on the back end, right? And so once you can have that kind of conversation as if it's like a consultative relationship, right? And you're not trying to sell them something, that's really what it's about. I don't sell as a vendor. I don't sell.
Yeah, I want to echo what Joe just said. Joe, you said it so perfectly, because that's what we like to do with our clients all the time is like we play very much of a consultative role, and we help them with their marketing tech stacks, and we can make recommendations in a lot of different areas in terms of what technology that they should be integrating and bringing into their organizations. That's I always love to do that. I mean, pure and simple. I think that from a vendor perspective, you need to be able to empathize with your clients. Just last week, I was listening to someone at a great company in the industry vent about a vendor that was providing them with a service. And I know I'm going to keep this really bland here for obvious reasons, but basically they were providing them with a service. The CEO of that company sat that vendor down and discovered from a fairly short conversation how disconnected the head of this company was from the relationship. And just by asking a few questions, and the thing is that it doesn't make sense. It's not genuine, because the thing is that if you really love this industry and love what you're doing, then you have to love the people that you work with and care about their outcomes from using you. And that means having a good understanding of your client, being connected with your client, being prepared, and knowing what you're talking about.
And as a vendor, we don't want to sell you something that you really can't use, or it's not integrated properly, or I'm not connected to that LOS, and I'm not going to tell you that I'm going to be connected to it. Sorry, but you should call these guys, or you should call that person, or
Right.
you should try to do it like this, or maybe you should change LOSs. I don't know, but I can't have a good relationship with somebody that I'm just trying to sell. I mean, they're going to get a benefit from it, which is going to benefit me, or otherwise it's not a good relationship, or it's not an authentic relationship. And that's what we're trying to do with our customers today. That's what our lenders are doing today. They're trying to have an authentic relationship with their clients. And that's the same thing that we're trying to do. Unfortunately, maybe there's a lot of people just trying to push a product that fills a certain need, but it's not that well automated in our business yet. And it's ever evolving. It's changing all the time. And we're now really focusing on helping our clients really expunge that cost and eliminate those touch points. And I think we're all trying to do the same thing. John does it on the marketing side. I do it on the fulfillment side, right? And so yeah.
I think that's good. I think that's good perspective from both of you there. So let's. This will be kind of fun here. I think that let's look into the future. Let's go crystal ball, and not go 6 months into the future or 12 months. Let's go like 5 years into the future. What does the borrower experience look like at that point? Joe, what do you think?
Well, it's probably a lot closer to where Brent Chandler thinks his thing is with Form Free. I mean, he believes that it's the score that you'll carry with you, and you can instantly get an approval whenever you need it, or redefine that whenever you'd like to have it. So I think that the experience of the future is clearly towards a consumer building their own loan package and putting it out for bid to lenders. That's probably what's going to happen.
Nice. I love that.
Yeah.
Great answer, Joe.
Yeah, that's what's going to happen.
We'll hold you to that, of course.
It's my own blockchain. I'll let you into my block. I got everything in my block, or whatever the case may be, if that's going to be the case. Everything's in my block. You can't have it. You can make me offers, because I may give you some information, but you're making offers to me because you've already seen my package and you know that I qualify. And when I hit the button, that's when I release my personal information to you. So then it's basically just a transaction. And me as the consumer, I control it myself.
John, what do you think?
You know what? I think that I have to echo what Joe said. I thought that he hit that one out of the park. All I'd have to say is faster, smoother. How can I see 5 years out, but what Joe's saying makes perfect sense. And I guess that's kind of aligned with what I'm saying. So
It's 5 years out. You just got to make something up. And we're not going to be here in 5 years. We're all going to be flying
I
cars.
think that's good.
Hey, it's going to be recorded so we can come back 5 years from now and see what you said.
Well, exactly. I'm kind of surprised that neither of you said, we're going to be in our flying cars with our Google Glass on, doing loans that way. So last question here. Last question here, and then we'll let folks get back to the conference here.
Right.
So,
right.
let's leave the group here with, one actionable thing that from the lender side that they can do right now to serve their customers better. Just one thing, either on the front end or the back end, somewhere in between, somewhere in there. So, Joe, let's start with you.
I think you let the customer take control. They're the ones most important part of the conversation, and they're the ones that are most motivated. So you need to have an intake way for them to come in and help control this whole process and allow them basically to service themselves. They shouldn't have to wait for a phone call or an email. When they're ready to act, they can react and act inside of your own portal. If you can make it that easy for the consumer to control more of the transaction and things that they do and make it more transparent for them, you will go a long way in your production on the back end.
That's good.
Totally agree. Yeah, totally agree. And like I said before, just the one actionable thing, just continue to work on the customer experience. And that's what we're all here for. We're all here for that. And like I mentioned earlier, I read in a survey about about what's most important, and it comes down to the experience, more important than rate. So that's my take on that.
Yeah, I think Dustin, for two on top of that is that in a lot of the sessions we had this year and putting together all the webinars, this action and customer experience at the top of the funnel, John, was also very important. Don't miss that. We understand when the customer's ready to transact, you got to have them transact, but a lot of times we're still surfing that top of funnel experience too as well. So like we alluded to today, and a couple of great John's points is that don't forget about that part of the experience, right? Because you may interact with somebody way upstream long before they're ready to transact, right? Especially in maybe somebody's hurting or shoot, maybe they're self-employed. It's gonna take forever to get back on track.
Yeah. I think that's all great stuff. Well, hey guys, I really appreciate your time. If again, I'll mention that John and Joe co-chair our Mortgage Technology Marketing Committee. We do monthly webinars, typically on the third Thursday of the month at 11 a.m. Pacific. So make sure and check our website, cmba.com, for the next webinar, and make sure you sign up for that. They're always free to anybody in the industry. You can always go on our YouTube channel as well and see the past webinars and check out what we've been talking about this year and even previously. And so if you enjoyed this conversation, you can always, again, go to our YouTube channel. You can subscribe to our weekly podcast there. We're also on Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, and you can catch the conversation each Monday morning. And with that, I'll leave it back to the conference. Enjoy the rest of the Mortgage Innovators Conference. John and Joe, thanks again for joining us.